Hello all, this is Doug Erb, and today's presentation webinar is over 3 wishes for a stress-free Q4 for next year, or actually for this year, 2016. First, a little bit about who we are. So Landshore is a company based in Houston. We work with organizations on implementing sales performance management, commission systems. We also work in CPQ and with workflow and CRM. So we are a consultancy that specifically works with companies on those particular pieces and really focus quite a bit on commissions. So let's talk about this end of the year, right? A lot of times at the end of the year, people are really having a good time, enjoying closing the year. You're spending time with your family and friends. It's a great time to focus on what you have and what you've been doing. And while many times people spend the end of the year enjoying the holidays and festivities, like we just showed you, if you think about us as commission professionals, this is and tends to be one of the most stressful times of the year for us. I mean, for example, you're looking at how you provide information to finance, to your management team, to the C-suite. How do you let them do modeling when the year end comes? How do you close the books? How do you get transparency to your sales management, your salespeople? These are all problems that at the end of the year get exacerbated to the commission people, and we're going to look at those 3 problems I just spoke of in a little bit of greater depth and talk about some possible solutions on how to handle those issues. So let's take a little time from our own lives to recuperate from the holidays and think about how we could have done this last one a little bit better. So like we were talking about, modeling, analytics, and right? So I've been through this myself many times and seen as the chief financial officer sends the email and over the shoulder of the unsuspecting commission manager sees the request for the data. Oh, hey, I need to do my sales data modeling, or I need to do my sales analysis for my future projections for next year. And there are multiple customers asking for it. You might not just be getting it from finance. You might be getting it from sales ops, sales managers who want to know how to set up their territories. They're trying to understand what their projections are. And so you're getting people from every different part of the information asking you for the organization asking you for information, and they all are trying to interpret it in a different way. And so like it says here, you see that email and you dread it because you realize that it not only takes you pulling the information, but also presenting the information. So, that's where all of our spreadshot jockeys come into play, where they're, taking countless hours, maybe even days or weeks, trying to figure out how to offer this up so someone can actually utilize it. So, when you're looking at that and you say, okay, well, how do I pull this information, where from, and what can I do, right? So, this comes down to reporting, right? And so reporting in many forms, here's a couple, right? There's specific reports that finance typically looks for, right? They want to do that planning and analysis. And the problem is that they are pulling it from different data points, right? A lot of the times it comes from the commission systems, but sometimes it's coming from the CRM, sometimes it's coming from a post-commission system like payroll. And in conglomerating that data to the financial people, it's how do we give them this information and where do we get it from? What I have seen people do historically in working with different organizations is a couple things, right? One, you can build a business intelligence warehouse. You can go ahead and look at it and say, all right, I need to pull and I'm going to house this information all in one space, pulling from, say, the commission system and from your CRM and landing it into your analytics warehouse. That's one way that I've seen people do it. The other way is you can look at the systems that you have in place right now and determine whether you can build those objects or the data points that are needed in those systems that will satisfy the reporting that you typically get from finance, from sales operations. So in some cases, a lot of people will say, all right, I have a Salesforce system that I can go ahead and build this object in, and I'll go ahead and load the object in there, bring information from outside systems like the commission system into the CRM, load the object there, and provide my financial reports from the CRM. And then I've also seen it done the other way, where the commission system actually lays its analytical reporting capabilities on top of whatever systems it has. And so what you're doing is you're feeding in data from outside, from the CRM, in addition to whatever traditional data that you're bringing in for commission reporting. You'll bring additional data in, and you'll run your reports from a commission system to provide that sales operational analysis to your financial people. And you can build those reports with a lot of the commission systems that there are out there right now because they have those reporting capabilities. So, that is from your finance people. For sales and sales operations, you're really going to be looking at traditional reports for them. Most sales managers want to look at what has happened over the year and be able to coach and assist in coaching. A lot of times that comes down to dashboards. And those dashboards should be capturing trends by the groups that they are managing, or trends for those products. And you can utilize systems such as your commission systems to provide those trends specifically to coach and assist with sales managers. So which one really is reporting? In reporting out to your organization. Which two is closing out the year? And I always find this wish to be the most interesting because it takes so long. A lot of people who don't have systems in place, who are closing out the year, or even some who do have systems in place, I've sat down with people, and it literally takes them 1 month to gather, process, and understand all the information that they have to do a year-end closing. And so why is that? And that comes down to, a lot of times you're waiting on that information to come from multiple locations. Again, the data is coming from different systems, from different people. Your traditional process may even take a month. Well, it gets exacerbated by year end because you're waiting for everything to trickle in. And so, at the end of the year, it's really important that your results be timely and accurate. So you're effectively having to wait for every last single piece of information to come in, because at the end of the year, you close your books, you process that books, and you flip to your new year, and everything that comes in post end of the year, it could be a real problem, right? Sometimes people just don't get paid on it, and a lot of times what happens is you have to do individual analysis or analysis and audits on that particular information. So, is at the end of the year, you want to understand how you can calculate in a timely fashion. You not only want to calculate, but you also inevitably want to be able to get people's data in a more timely fashion. So most of the people that I've worked with before systemize this process and actually have some pretty rigid controls that get put in place. That means that by systemizing it and you're systemizing your calculation, you take it down from what you may be doing, which is spreadsheets, and you start putting it into a systemized process that does the calculation and has less errors through the calculation process. The reason why that's a massive step up is because whenever you're doing it from a spreadsheet perspective, depending on the amount of lines that you have, you're really having to weed through all those spreadsheets, all those individual cells, all those tabs, and make sure that each individual piece of data that you've got that you had to copy over to a spreadsheet is accurate and not mispasted, miscopied, miss anything. When you systemize and you set your rigid process, you allow people to put information in a structured format such that it gets in, it can be calculated, so you're really eliminating that copy-paste step. While that sounds very minimal, it actually ends up hugely benefiting the process and can really cut down calculation times up to 3 weeks, as I've seen before. So then if you take a step back and say, okay, I've got a system in place, but I still have problems. Well, usually your problems are at a workflow and data point. So you have to really sit back and say, okay, where am I getting my information? Why is it bad? And why does it take so long to get into the system and calculate? Well, the calculation is probably not taking you anything but maybe a couple hours. So really it's the process of collecting the data. And so you have to look at where you're getting it from. And what I've seen people typically do is start to structure your feed process and then automate a cleansing process in a workflow. And that means that you say, okay, I have a problem with XYZ group. They consistently put in the wrong information for a piece of data. And specifically, I've seen it for territories, right? You have people who don't put their name on it, don't put their manager's name on it, don't put the splits, don't put the territory. So you see that happen on a consistent basis. One of the more intelligent ways to do it, and that happens a lot of times in the insurance industry, is they automate the way that they mark the commissionable event. So they'll say, oh, okay, you didn't put this in it. Well, this policy happened to be sold in New York City, New York, so I'm going to go look up who I have as a broker on record for New York City, New York, that's licensed. And in many ways, you can take information and do that. You can say, oh, I'm going to go ahead and take this transaction. The person didn't put their manager on it, but when I look in their upline, this is their specific manager. I'll go ahead and associate them to the transaction and assume it goes to this territory for anybody who receives any kind of external permission that may be off of that transaction. So you can start intelligently working your process with automation so that you can start feeding in data to your transactions that allow you to commission correctly and adequately. But what happens when it's wrong? And that's where workflow comes in. You really have to look at the transaction and say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and start pushing data to these people, but there may be cases where I push the wrong information and someone catches it, and they say, wait a minute, you know what? I should have been associated, and this is the true meaning of the transaction. Now, let's keep in mind that it's actually their fault, possibly, but we actually give them a workflow process that allows them to say, okay, I want to hold and dispute this transaction. I want to be able to say, this is who it should be getting to. And so in the workflow process, you go ahead and allow them to dispute transactions, and it will smooth out the ability to get the data in properly because you're catching it up front before calculations. By implementing a few of these steps, you actually can go ahead and you can actually take down the amount of time it takes to actually automate your commission system close. The other good part about it, frankly, is it gets you more accurate data. It gets it in a more timely fashion. It allows you to handle the workflow problems, and then from there you can turn it over and move into the new year, knowing that okay, I have a fundamental 98, 99% accuracy, and that's going to come not just with the data in the calcs, but also with any kind of clawbacks, with any kind of bonuses, MBOs that you may be putting into this system. So it really helps you when you automate that close. So the last wish is going to be kind of tangential to both things that we were just talking about, which is the data that comes in and the way it's being presented. And it's called erasing the guesswork for your organization, right? So most people want to have information self-serve to them, and it helps you as a commission manager because then if they can take it and understand that information, you can then have more time to obviously process it, work with people who have disputes. So how do you erase the guesswork for your sales organization? Along with what I just said, which is coupled with the need for everyone to be able to see what they want when they want it instantly, and understanding what you're truly earning, right? And I think this is the most important at the end of the year for the simple reason that you have most of your true-ups coming at the end of the year. You understand what your final year-to-date calculations are, and it's incredibly important that your commission people be able to see, oh, I got clawed back, I got trued up here, I have these transactions coming in, and this is exactly what my year-end bonus calculation should be. So wish number 3 is transparency. It's key to people in sales and commissions for transparency, just like I said. So how do you get said transparency? Well, the most important report out for transparency is going to be your commission summary and commission detail report. You should be providing that information with the information of all the details of the calcs that you're doing to your sales reps. So what is the commission summary and commission detail report? Well, simply it's what they got paid and then the capability to drill down into the calculations that caused that payment. So that if someone got a bonus or clawback, they should be able to click into that item and link back to the specific transactions or calculations that represent that count, those clawbacks or those bonuses. And as easy or simple as this sounds, a lot of times it becomes really hairy when you get into management and working with your sales managers so that they can understand how things were rolled up. Maybe they had people coming in and out of territory, and making sure that all the appropriate transactions were associated to those managers. The other piece of this is making sure that you have an audit trail, right? And this is, again, where workflow that we just talked about comes in very importantly. It provides you the transparency to say, okay, not only did you have these transactions that caused your clawback, but you also had this dispute, which we added, which actually trued up to the final calculation. So by including the transparency that you have into the system, you will be able to provide a report with your commission people, the sales summary and the sales detail report, so that they'll be able to completely understand what they're looking at, and you'll most likely have less calls at the end of the year and less people raising their hand saying, hey, why is my calculation wrong? Yeah, and just so you know, this, some things like this, you really want to make sure that from a workflow perspective, one of the biggest things that it corrects is the sticky notes, and I think that's another big piece for why driving through workflow at the end of the year and having transparency is very, very important. So those are 3 very simple wishes that can help your industry, and that I suspect many of you already have in place. But if you don't, you should be looking at it in a way to augment it or correct it. Again, my name is Doug Erb with Landshore. If you have any questions, please email us at info@landshore.com. And I'm looking forward to talking to you all. Thank you.